But I really should have found a way to go.
Yeah.
But I made a mistake.
Yeah.
And I was young and kind of.
For decades, audiences believed Al Pacino and his co-stars shared the same admiration we felt watching them. But the truth is darker. At 85, he admits there were 7 actors he couldn't stand. Some were idols, others close allies who turned into bitter rivals. Each feud was so intense it scarred careers and fueled whispers that still haunt Hollywood today. So let's find out and see the legends Pacino never forgave. Number 1. Marlon Brando. The first shock is the most painful. Marlon Brando, the man Pacino once admired, became the source of his deepest wound. On the set of The Godfather, they were father and son, icons locked together in cinematic history. But away from the cameras, Pacino's respect for Brando froze into resentment. Pacino was still rising when Brando walked onto set with his unpredictable, chaotic energy. Marlon would just do things. You had to react or drown, Pacino recalled. For a young actor fighting for credibility, that felt less like collaboration and more like sabotage. Then came the Oscars in 1973. Brando was nominated for Best Actor. Pacino, despite carrying Michael Corleone's transformation, was pushed into the supporting actor category. Pacino refused to attend. According to insiders, he felt humiliated. He wasn't angry at the Academy, one publicist said. He was angry at the idea Brando carried the film. The rift never healed. Brando dismissed it with silence, even as Pacino tried years later to bury the tension in interviews. They never reunited, never shared another public moment. One director summed it up. Marlon was chaos. Al was control. They couldn't coexist. What looked like Hollywood's greatest partnership was, in truth, a Cold War that left 2 legends forever divided. Number 2. Leonardo DiCaprio. Leonardo DiCaprio grew up idolizing Al Pacino, studying his films frame by frame. So when they finally worked together on Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, 2019, DiCaprio expected guidance, maybe even friendship. What he got instead was cold dismissal. Pacino never shared the admiration. He saw DiCaprio's annotated scripts, hired historians, and endless fittings not as dedication, but as clutter. During one table read, Pacino leaned back and muttered, "The research department is down the hall. We're in the acting department here." The laugh it drew only deepened the sting. Their divide was stark. Pacino relied on instinct, improvisation, and emotional fire. DiCaprio constructed characters brick by brick, like an architect. Costume designer Ariane Phillips recalled, "Leo wanted multiple fittings until he felt the character. Al would close his eyes, breathe, and say, 'This is it.'" To Pacino, Leo's process killed spontaneity. To Leo, Pacino's dismissal was crushing. "He was my hero growing up, and now he treats me like I'm wasting time." Pacino later told Martin Scorsese privately that DiCaprio had the head of an academic who needed to set fire to the textbook. Then, in late 2024, they were spotted at lunch in Los Angeles with DiCaprio's father. Witnesses heard Pacino smile and say, "You turned out all right, kid." It was a proof that even admiration can sour into lasting disappointment. Number 3. Tom Cruise. When news broke that Al Pacino and Tom Cruise would star together in Michael Mann's Collateral, Hollywood buzzed with excitement. 2 megastars, 2 generations, 1 gritty thriller, it felt like destiny. But within days of rehearsal, the dream collapsed into quiet hostility. Cruise came armed with his trademark precision, dossiers on contract killers, a childhood timeline for his character, weeks of firearms drills. Pacino loathed it. After one long breakdown, he cut in sharply, "I don't need to know where the guy went to elementary school." I need to know what he's feeling now." That single line captured their divide. Cruise obsessed with detail, Pacino chasing raw, messy truth. During improvisation, Pacino threw away the script to provoke something real. Cruise, unshaken, stuck to his rehearsed beats. Furious, Pacino leaned over and whispered, "All this homework is wonderful, but at some point you have to set fire to the library and see what happens." Crew members repeated that line for years. It became the motto of their feud. The clash poisoned the project. Jamie Foxx replaced Pacino as the cab driver, earning an Oscar nomination while Pacino walked away, burned by the experience. Since then, silence. No collaborations, no panels, no warm words. Cruise has hinted about respecting different processes, but Pacino never softened. What should have been an explosive partnership became a warning. Sometimes two legends are better off apart. Number 4. Kevin Spacey. When Glengarry Glen Ross hit theaters in 1992, critics praised the crackling tension between Al Pacino and Kevin Spacey. Their scenes together felt so authentic that many assumed it was born from respect. But in truth, the chemistry came from something darker. Pacino quickly grew frustrated with Spacey's obsessive preparation. Spacey approached every line as if solving a math equation, breaking it down with marks, pauses, and calculated inflections. For Pacino, who thrived on chaos and instinct, it was suffocating. One crew member remembered him snapping after a take, "He's not acting. He's demonstrating acting." That line, delivered loud enough for everyone to hear, cut Spacey to pieces. From then on, the set was divided. Pacino exploded with raw energy. Spacey countered with clinical precision. Director James Foley admitted later, "Al needed the performance to be lived. Kevin needed it diagrammed." They were polar opposites. Spacey drained the life out of scenes and Pacino was reckless. Even Spacey once sneered, "Al thinks chaos is depth." Sometimes chaos is just chaos. The tension never healed. They've avoided each other ever since, never sharing another project, never exchanging public words of respect. Pacino later dropped a cryptic line in a 2019 Q&A. "Some actors never stop rehearsing, even when the cameras are rolling." He didn't need to say the name, everyone already knew. And truth, in his world, always wins. Number 5. Dustin Hoffman. Al Pacino and Dustin Hoffman were never friends, though the world thought they could be. In 1974, Sidney Lumet tried to unite them in Attica. Instead of history being made, rehearsals collapsed into war, and the film died before the cameras even rolled. Hoffman walked in armed with research binders, charts, and endless psychological questions. Pacino sat quietly until he couldn't anymore. Slamming the table, he barked, "We're not performing autopsies. We're trying to breathe life into something." Crew members later said the room went silent, Hoffman glaring as if Pacino had just spat on his entire craft. The feud only deepened. During improvisation, Hoffman dissected every motive while Pacino demanded chaos, heat, instinct. Finally, Pacino snapped again. "Stop building the violin and play the damn music." It wasn't just a line, it was his rejection of Hoffman's entire philosophy. Lumet knew then the film was doomed. He shut it down, admitting later, they were two different religions of acting. Both men went on to dominate the decade, but never stood on the same set again. Critics loved comparing them, Hoffman's precision against Pacino's fire, but that comparison was poison. Pacino hated the shadow. Hoffman dismissed Pacino as reckless. What should have been a legendary pairing turned into a cold war that still lingers in Hollywood memory. Number 6. Jared Leto. Al Pacino didn't even recognize him. On the set of House of Gucci, 2021, Jared Leto marched up in full prosthetics, balding wig, thick accent, and greeted Pacino with a theatrical, "Papa!" Pacino thought he was an overeager extra. When told it was Leto, he nearly had a heart attack, and the tension never left the set. For Pacino, acting meant discipline, craft, and truth born in the moment. Leto's process was something else entirely, staying in character all day, ad-libbing nonsense, and refusing to break even after the cameras stopped rolling. One afternoon, Pacino turned to Ridley Scott in front of the crew and snapped, "Tell the kid the scene is over. He can come back now." The message was clear. Enough with the circus. What Leto saw as sacred devotion, Pacino read as chaos. Acting is fighting against artificial behavior until something truthful emerges, Pacino once said. To him, Leto wasn't chasing truth. He was manufacturing it. Behind the scenes, Pacino reportedly asked for fewer joint press appearances. At premieres, the two barely interacted. Leto later called Pacino a generous partner, but insiders knew better. Their clash wasn't a screaming match. It was colder, quieter, and final. The fact they've never worked together again says everything. For Pacino, Jared Leto turned acting into performance art, and that was unforgivable. Number 7, Johnny Depp. The cameras told one story. Al Pacino and Johnny Depp locked in haunting chemistry in Donnie Brasco, 1997. But the set told another. Two men who could barely stand each other's methods. Pacino became Lefty Ruggiero with raw instinct, living every line as if it was torn from his veins. Depp, deep in his chameleon era, built Donnie from the outside in, quirks, accents, tiny details. At first, Pacino tolerated it. Then one night, during a Brooklyn restaurant scene, he snapped. He turned to Depp and demanded, "Where are you right now?" "Because you're not here with me." The set froze. For Pacino, Depp's style felt like absence, and absence was betrayal. Producer Barry Levinson often had to mediate as the tension mounted. Pacino later reflected, "Some actors create characters, others reveal themselves through characters." He didn't name Depp, but the implication was unmistakable. Depp, for his part, laughed it off years later, calling Pacino certifiably insane at the Santa Barbara International Film Festival. He even joked, "I wouldn't spend a night anywhere near his house." But behind the humor was bitterness. They've never worked together again. No reunions, no nostalgia tours, just silence. On screen, they looked inseparable. Off-screen, they proved that sometimes great chemistry is just a convincing lie. 7 names, 7 stories of rivalry, bitterness, and respect turned to ashes. They were about survival, about protecting what Al Pacino believed acting should be. Which of these feuds shocked you the most? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more hidden truths from Hollywood's legends.